In the rising of the sun, we remember them. In the blowing of the wind, we remember them. In the warmth of summer, in the chill of winter, we remember them. When we are weary and sick at heart, when we have joys we yearn to share, we remember them. So long as we live, they too shall live, for they are now a part of us as we remember them.
Thank you, Karen. That was beautiful. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We are Teach the Shoah, and this is Light from the Darkness, a ritual for Holocaust remembrance. If you have the book, we'll be starting on page 2. If you don't worry, because I'm going to put the slides up. Hold on. Okay. Sorry, there we go. So if you don't have the book, it'll be on the screen for you to follow along. As with all Jewish ceremonies, this is a participatory event. Please join us in the readings and the rituals as much as you are able, and feel free to add your thoughts to the chat at any time. Jennifer, would you start us off here?
Yes, we have been broken. Part of us will always be broken. We gather each precious shard and piece them together to create a new vessel that will hold our love and our pain. We find that we are somehow whole and broken at the same time. We discover glimmers of holiness in the cracks, for it is through these jagged windows that we see the paths to building a better world. There is more to a broken vessel than the hammer that shattered it. Let's read together. Even when we are enveloped by evil, we hold on to our humanity and our faith. We emerge as a Jewish people strengthened in our resolve to remain Jews. The thread of Jewish life was and still is strong.
These mismatched candlesticks remind us of the resilience that our ancestors have always shown in dark times. They made do with what they had. They never gave up their determination to hold on to their Judaism. We take inspiration from their resilience and from those who found the strength to stand when standing seems impossible. If you have candles to light, light them with us now. Read with me. We light these candles for the light that shines in the hearts of all who fight against evil. For a single candle can both defy and define the darkness.
Ashrei hagafru shenisraf v'hitzit lehavot. Ashrei halevava שבערה בסתרי לבבות. Blessed is the match consumed in a kindling flame. Blessed is the flame that softly burns in a heart's secret place. Blessed the heart that like flickering light seemed to flutter and die without shame. Blessed is the match consumed in a kindling flame.
Sorry. We begin our story in the light. We remember. Not so long ago, many of our mothers and our fathers, our sisters and our brothers lived in the land of Europe. We were Jews of many different sorts. We were religious and secular. We lived in cities and in small towns. We lived in many countries across the world. We spoke many different languages. We were doctors and dressmakers, painters and poets, scientists and shopkeepers, weavers and welders. We were a warm family whose life followed a quiet, carefree routine. Our roots reached back generation upon generation, living there amidst friends, neighbors, and acquaintances. With this loving background, the years flowed peacefully. Miriam Yahav, Poland. An ancient hatred, unashamed, was emerging from the shadows, but we did not recognize the approaching danger. We thought that the world was evolving beyond such ignorance.
Throughout our time together tonight, we will be hearing short stories from the lives of people who experienced the Holocaust. Our first story is from Leora Lazarus. This is a story told to Leora by her Boba, Chava Shviro, when Leora was around 10 years old. At the time, Leora was the same age as Chava is in the story. Leora, whenever you're ready.
When I was 10 years old, I asked my Boba, Boba, what was your life like when you were 10? Zisinka, sweetie, Leora Lasher always said to me, my little Anikel, you don't need to know about my life. You just need to enjoy yours. But with enough of my 10-year-old nagging, she began to tell me the story. Let me tell you a story, my dear Leora. I would wake up on a cold winter's morning, very ready and eager to go to school. On the way out, I would grab my hot-boiled potato. I'd put it in my pocket because it would keep my hands warm on my way in the snow. And I'd have lunch. I got to school. I loved going to school. I loved learning. And my teacher liked that I had a really nice handwriting. And the first class of the day was going to be our writing lesson. I gently dipped my quill into my ink. And the first thing we always needed to do was write the date. It was December 1920. So I started to write 192. Bang! My desk was hit. I drew a line across the page. The Polish boy looked down at me. Przepraszam, Żydowski. Sorry, Jew. I hear it again in Polish. Przepraszam, Żydowski. He wasn't sorry. He did it all the time. Well, I put the paper away and started again. And now my handwriting was neat and ready for the day. I'm kind of used to this. It happens over and over. In the classroom, right at the back, there was the most beautiful pripyatchik. Pripyatchik is an oven, and it heated the whole room. We could smell the fire burning, and it made the room so comfortable for all of us. But school was long and it was very cold. So soon the fire began to dwindle. I knew what was going to happen. It always happens. The Polish boy again. Żydowski, give me your boot. Why does he always need to use my boot? Somebody else's boot? What's so fantastic about my boot? But I know better than to argue. I take it off and give it to him. He takes the boot, he opens the top, and he lets as much air in and goes down to the heel, and he presses really hard, and the air comes out and helps fuel the fire with oxygen. And soon, everyone in the whole room is benefiting from my boot. I wish that wasn't so, but at least I'm being helpful. At the end of the day, it's time to go home. I wait outside the classroom for my sister. She comes running up. She's in a really good mood. Oh. I remind her. I don't really need to remind her. She knows. But still, we have to walk very quietly home. As we begin our walk, memories of the other time came flooding back. As we were walking, and we heard the same sound. Żydowski, Żydowski. The Polish boy, Jew, Jew, Jew. And I still remember the stones as they pelted and pelted and pelted. And as we got closer to home, my little puppy came running to greet us. And the stones were flying and flying. And my little puppy paid the ultimate price.
Thank you, Leora, for sharing this very intimate story with us. I invite everyone to take a breath. And all the times tonight, when you hear stories, we will hear several. Take a moment, whether we announce it or not, to take in a breath, take in the story. Let it out. Thank you so much, Leora. Tonight, in addition to asking you all as participants to share in our readings and our ritual, we're going to ask you to participate in our discussions. For a moment, let us move out of what is on the page or on our screen and into our own hearts, like Leora did, into our own minds. If you want, you may close your eyes or go into a quiet place as you consider these questions, which we're going to put up on the screen. So we know that Leora sat at her buba's knee, her grandmother's knee, and she heard this story, which she now so eloquently shared with us. At whose knee did each of you sit at, either literally or metaphorically, to listen to stories of their life? So we invite you, if you wish, to honor them, to honor those people who shared stories with you by sharing a memory in the chat. So take your time and you can feel free to write, and we'll read some of those memories as we have time. So Sheila is sharing about her bubby, Bessie Brown, telling her the story of her life in the shtetl in Poland. And Etya talks about her mother, who was a Holocaust survivor from Czechoslovakia, sharing stories with her. Ava writes that her Zeta, Avram Zelezniko, would always share his experiences of being a partisan from Vilna during the war. He would show her the dagger that he used to kill Nazis. Ooh. And Liz writes, my mother, who was with me, sat at her grandmother's knees and heard the stories of hardships. There was little money, but a lot of love. Linda writes, I clearly remember visiting my booby as she was dying in the nursing home. She looked lovingly at me and called me her neshama. Oh, these are lovely. And feel free to keep writing as memories come to you. Lynn, one of our leaders, writes, though I grew up in a survivor family, I did not have the privilege to hear their stories. But living in Israel, I grew up listening to all of the survivors who gave testimonies on Yom HaShoah, and later on listening to any testimony that I could. Thank you, Lynn, who's now working on her PhD work in this field. Angie writes, my late grandmother was a longtime survivor guide at the Sydney Jewish Museum. I've learned many stories from him, but also documents and stories he left behind I didn't get a chance to ask him about. So we're going to end here, but keep writing. Thank you, everyone, for participating. Thank you, Leora.
We must be watchful. We ignore the rising shadows of hatred, they engulf us. We remember. Hatred spread across Germany like poison in water. The Germans afflicted us with cruel laws and humiliations. They did not care who we were or what we did. They did not care whether we were religious or secular, from the city or from the country, civilian or soldier, only that we were Jews. The Psalms reflect our anguish. Every day they make my words sorrowful. All their thoughts about me are for evil. They gather and hide. They watch my steps. They hope to capture my soul.
Trouble does not begin with fanfare, but as storm clouds building in the distance. We remember. Every day they keep issuing new laws against Jews. Today, for example, they took all our appliances away from us. The sewing machine, the radio, the telephone, the vacuum cleaner, the electric fryer, my camera, my bicycle. Augie said we should be happy they're taking things and not people. Eva Heyman, Romania. In the overcrowded ghettos, we lamented, I feel as if I'm in a box. There's no air to breathe. Wherever you go, you encounter a gate that hems you in. I feel as if I have been robbed. My freedom is being robbed from me, my home, and the familiar streets I love so much. I have been cut off from all that is dear and precious to me. Yitzhak Rudishevsky, Lithuania.
If you have potato skins, take one and dip it into salt water. These potato skins remind us that in the deprivation of the ghetto, we ate whatever we could find. The salt water in which we dip them recalls our tears. Read with me. We dip to remember our starvation, evoking the salt of our tears and the hardships we endured. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri ha'adama.
If you have tea, raise your tea with us. We remember, even in the ghetto, we celebrated Shabbat. We found, however, that wine for Kiddush was often impossible to get. The rabbis ruled that sweet tea could be substituted. Let us say together, we drink this tea in memory of the Kiddush wine we could not have. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehakol niyeh bidvaro. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, by whose word everything comes into being.
We remember, holding on to the hope that we might one day be reunited. We sent our children into hiding. A few were sent to safety beyond the borders. Others found hiding places with friends, neighbors, and strangers. As Mommy and Omi waved to me, I chose to hide my tears, and I smiled. I wanted to give them strength. Ruth Weston, Germany.
I want you to take a piece of paper. On it, write a note for the future, a personal hope or a hope for community. These notes represent our hope for our children and our faith in their future. Hope and faith may seem frail comfort, but they are steel girders that give us strength to stand. As we did in the time of trouble, we now conceal our hope in a secret place to keep it safe. May we find it again at the end of our journey. Let us hide our hope. We're going to protect these notes until we are once again safe, and we can reveal our hope and our faith to the world. So find a place to hide your hope in a safe place.
Words fail as we begin to speak of the darkest times. We remember the Germans, with willing partners, murdered us in staggering numbers. Mass graves filled the forests of Europe. My heart shudders within me. The terrors of death have descended upon me. Fear and trembling penetrate me, and I am enveloped with horror. We were murdered without mercy. Mothers and fathers, children and grandparents. We were murdered simply for being Jews.
The Germans forced us from our homes into ghettos, into slave labor camps, and into death chambers. In our blind ignorance, we thought that deportation was a better solution. Fools that we were. We thought that the ghetto was the ultimate in abysmal blackness. We did not know that from here on, we would be severed and cut off from everything that was familiar and dear to us. We did not know that from that train ride on, we would be robbed of our whole world. Sarah Selver, Poland.
Our next story is a story from the Holocaust, but not from the Jewish community. It's a story from the Roma community, the story of a 4-year-old Roma girl named Christina Sharon. The year is 1943. Greg, it's all yours. It looks like we may have lost Greg. So when he comes back in, we will pause and get his story because we very much want to hear that story. But in the meantime, let's go back to our program. If you have wine cups, please grab your wine cup, make sure it's filled, but don't drink from it. We grieve as we remember the vibrant Jewish communities and Roma communities that were destroyed. If you have the name of a community that was lost and would like us to share it, please share it with us in the chat. A cry is heard in Ramah, wailing, bitter weeping. Rachel weeping for her children. She refuses to be comforted for her children who are gone.
We spill drops of wine to remember the blood that was spilled, the whole communities that were destroyed. These losses diminish our lives as we diminish the wine in our glass. Let these few represent for us the many. If you have the names of the communities, put them in the chat and I will read them after. For each of these communities, we will dip our fingers and spill a drop of wine. Repeat after me. Warsaw, Vienna, Thessaloniki, Riga, Kiev, Sarajevo, Chelm, Kielce, Wiesbaden, Prague, and from the chat, Lida, Vilna, Pilviski, Lithuania, Kiev, Yednavne, Roizo, Nelipa, Polanka, and Bialystok. Cantor Karen.
Es brennt, Brüderlach, es brennt. Oi, unser Orem Städel nebach brennt. Böse Winden mit ihr Kosen, Reisen brechen und sie bloßen, starke noch die wilde Flammen, Orts arum schon brennt. Ohne Stadt und Kucka soll sich mit verlegter Hand. Ohne Stadt und Kucka soll sich unser Städel brennt.
We pause in terror before the human deed, the cloud of annihilation, the concentration of death. the cruelly casual way of each to each. But in the stillness of this hour, we find our way from darkness into light. From Chaim Stern.
Okay, but before we do, I've been told that Greg made his way back in. So we're going to step back into the darkness for a moment so that we can hear the story of this little 4-year-old girl. Greg, start when you're ready.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, you guys, they locked the internet out in the building, so I was out momentarily. It's a hot day in my village in Shuchurowa, Poland. The German Nazis came in and they were yelling for everyone to get out of their houses. So my family and I just go outside and I can see my neighbors and my friends and my other family that lives in my village. They're there waiting for us, the Nazis. First, I see they take the men away in wagons. The wagons come back empty and they take another group until it was our turn. My mama, my big brother, and my little sister and me get into the wagon. My mamio, my grandma, she's trying to get in with us, but the Nazi won't let her and he pushes her out of the way and says there's too many people already. Mama doesn't want her to stay alone, so she says to keep my brother with her. But he doesn't want to stay with Mamio. He wants to stay with us in the wagon. And he says if we're gonna die, he wants to die with my mama. So then Mama says, take me. Mamio agrees. When the Nazis aren't looking, she picks me up and hands me down to my grandmother over the wagon. We wait for our turn as we watch the wagon leave. After a little while, it's our turn and we get in with the rest of the people waiting and we're going through the village. Soon we pass up to the cafe and the owner comes out and she's yelling to the Nazis to come and stop and have a little bite to eat. It's already the middle of the day. After a little while, she convinced them and they go. They're gonna have lunch. So we're sitting there and just wondering what's gonna happen when an officer in a blue uniform comes out. I think he's from our village. He doesn't look like the Nazis. And he yells for us to jump out while the Nazis are busy so we could run away. And we did. We jumped out of the wagon and we ran as far as we could, me and my mamio. We found family in the area that we could stay with, but they don't like for us to stay too long. They're uncomfortable. And when we're on the street, nobody could know we're Hamas, so we have to just say we're Polish, but we have to move anyway. After some time, it's cold and there's snow out and we get caught. Now we're taken to a camp in Płaszów. We're there for a little while, but Mamio, she made a friend with a Nazi officer and he spoke really good Polish. I could understand him. He said he's gonna help us to get out of this camp. But me and Mamio, we don't know. We just have to trust that he's not gonna hurt us. So one night, he leads us to the camp gates and tells us to run. Again, we ran. About a day later, we make it to another village near us. There, we met a farmer who had 2 houses, a little wooden one and a big brick one. He had 3 kids that lived there. He said we could stay in the little wood one, so we did. Mamio would go and help him on his farm as a way to pay him back and thank him for taking us in. We were there for a little while, and one day, Mamio and the farmer came in and they said something like liberation happened, and I don't know what that means, but Mamio explained to me we can go back home to our village. So we pack our few little things away and slowly start walking back to our village. When we got there, nothing looked the same. Our houses weren't there. Our gardens were burned down. Mamio talked to one of the neighbors, and I could hear them saying that the Nazis came in after we left and they went into our houses and took what they wanted, but the rest they just left and burned it to the ground. We also found out from our neighbors what happened to my family. They shot my mother, and my big brother and my little sister, they just crushed them into walls. But now we're back. We're back, and our neighbors know we're back. The ones that loved us and helped us knew we were back, and we weren't gonna leave again.
Thank you so much, Greg. And we invite you to take a breath as we remember Christina Shurin Gill, whose testimony Greg learned very well to share this powerful and painful and hopeful story with you. We're just going to step back where we were into the place where we were before. So I'm going to reread the part that I read right before to get us back into that place. Thank you again, Greg. We paused in terror before the human deed, the cloud of annihilation, the concentration of death, the cruelly casual way of each to each. But in the stillness of this hour, we find our way from darkness into light.
Friends, we remember, despite our enemy's eagerness to strip us of our Judaism and of our humanity, we continue to educate our children, to celebrate the holidays, to love and help each other. Although prayer was forbidden, we prayed in secret communities and within the secret places in our hearts. Our faith was the one thing they could not take from us. Rivka Wagner, Poland. Hidden between the bunks, we whisper the familiar words of the Friday evening prayers and found tranquility. I discovered for the first time in my life the real power and value of prayer and faith in God. I could feel my words shattering the iron gates and the high-powered fences, going past the hundreds of guards, dugouts, and watchtowers out into the open, reaching towards heaven. Here, I knew, was a way of escape, a source of strength, and a means of survival of which no power on earth could deprive me. Simcha Unsdorfer, Czechoslovakia. In the ghetto, a young boy defied the bitterness.
From tomorrow on, I shall be sad. From tomorrow on. Today, I will be happy. What's the use of sadness? Tell me that. Because the evil winds begin to blow? Why should I grieve for tomorrow today? No, today I will be glad. And every day, no matter how bitter it be, I will say, from tomorrow on, I shall be sad. Not today. Modela, a child in the ghetto.
Many have tried to destroy us. Pharaoh, Amalek, Haman, Caesar, the Inquisition, the Nazis. None have succeeded. In the Torah, we are commanded, choose life so that you and your children shall live. Join me. As long as that secret power is concealed within us, we shall not yield to despair. Chaim Kaplan, Poland. As we fight physical, mental, and spiritual battles, we cry out to the generation's old refrain, L'chaim, to life. We continue to live out Judaism and not let the evil destroy our faith in God or our humanity.
Our next story comes from the life of Teddy Halper. Teddy was a child survivor with significant physical disabilities. Tanya, it's all yours.
Strong isn't what you think when you see me. I was born disabled. I quickly learned that most people they look at my stunted arms, my deformed and missing fingers, my crooked legs, my special shoes. They look at the scar on my lip from cleft palate surgery. Actually, most people don't look at me. They see a crippled boy and turn away with pity or disgust. When my parents and my sister were approved to emigrate to America to escape the coming Nazi horrors in Austria, I wasn't approved because of the disabilities. Immigration authorities couldn't see me as a boy with parents to care for him. When my Oma and I were separated after bombs fell on our next home in Paris, the police took me to a mental asylum. They couldn't see me as an intelligent boy who could communicate in other languages. When I was hidden in a convent, the nuns focused on my crippled arms and legs, my pitiful state. They wanted to convert me to become Catholic. They couldn't see me as a Jewish boy needing to hold on to his heritage. And when I ran away and asked to join the partisans, they looked at me, but they couldn't see me either. At first, they saw only my disabilities. At first. And that is my secret strength, that invisibility. So today I've been given a letter written on the thinnest of paper in the smallest print, folded into this little packet, and this letter will fit into a space in the heel of my shoe with an extra thick heel, a shoe for a crippled boy. And into that heel goes this letter. And I'll step into the street, a Jewish boy acting as a courier for the French resistance, a boy walking clumsily down the street, maybe in front of a German soldier, maybe in front of a collaborator, maybe even in full view of an SS officer searching for Jews hidden in an attic. Just a Jewish boy, hoping to deliver this letter and return alive one more time. You don't see me as strong, but I thank God you don't.
If you have fruit with pits, take one and join me. Let us say together, these fruits with their unbreakable inner core represent our inner strength. They are a tangible token of the power to resist. We eat these fruits so that we may gain courage from our ancestors to find our own inner strength in difficult times. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri ha'etz. Blessed art thou, Adonai our God, ruler of the universe, who creates the fruit of the tree.
How do we stay hopeful when people are capable of such great evil? A few good people recognized evil for what it was. They risked their lives to help us. They hid friends, neighbors, and strangers from the eyes of those who would harm us. In almost every survivor's story, there is a story of someone who helped.
We remember. Helpers lived in every country in Europe. They came from every walk of life. Some saved hundreds, some saved one. They did all they could to save as many as they could, regretting only that they could not do more. Having been their nanny for 13 years, 26-year-old Erzsébet Faho swore that she would protect the Abonyi family. As the bombs fell on Budapest and the fascist militias searched the streets for Jews, Erzsébet risked her life daily to find a safe place for each family member to hide. She saved us day by day. Susanna Osvat, Hungary. With her partners at the secret organization Zhota, Irina Sendler smuggled thousands of Jewish children out of the Warsaw Ghetto. She hid them in ambulances, snuck them through underground passageways, and wheeled them out concealed in boxes and suitcases. She kept track of the children on papers buried in glass bottles, hoping to someday reunite them with their families. Every child saved with my help is the justification of my existence on this earth and not a title to glory. Irina Sendler, Poland.
Once again, we move off the page and into our own hearts and into our own minds. If you wish, you may close your eyes or go into a quiet place as you consider these questions. Who has helped you? Who has helped you? Help can be as simple as one person meeting another with empathy. Through the example of how we've been helped, we recognize how to help others. So take a moment, contemplate, and when you're ready, please write your thoughts in the chat. We will share some aloud. Ava writes that Irina Sendler, who we just heard about, had a profound impact on me. She saved 2,500 Jewish children from the ghetto. The Nazis tortured her, and she never gave up the names of any of the children she saved. She's an inspiration. Thank you, Ava. Keep in mind that this can be anyone who helped you in any way, not necessarily a Holocaust story. Of course, that's welcome as well. Tanya writes that her friend and rabbi, Michael Panitz, helped her through 2 very difficult losses. Thank you, Tanya. We'll wait just a half a minute longer. If anyone else would like to write, we'd love to share. I think we can move on, but we invite you to continue contemplating or writing about any of these questions that we asked throughout the evening. So we can, oh, I see Etcha, so let me read Etcha's. Etcha says, my best friend, my dream sisters, an accountant who took a chance on me. These are all people who have helped her, beautifully said. So Greg, we can go and move on to you honoring the helpers.
We honor the helpers so that we may gain wisdom from them. We must always strive for the courage to help those in need. Reach your hand to me. From a distance, we will help each other. And let us say, we reach hand to wrist as if pulling each other to safety. Each person's decision to help was difficult. The risks were many. Would we have made such a decision? We cannot know, and we cannot judge. In gratitude and hope, we honor the helpers. We draw inspiration from them and vow to never be indifferent to the plight of others. Strength comes to those who pursue justice.
We remember. Liberation eventually came. As the armies of the world moved towards vanquishing evil, they discovered a hell that left them stunned. As it is recorded in Daniel, it will be a time of trouble as has never been before. At that time, your people will be rescued. Let us say together, we must remember the affliction of our people so that no people shall ever suffer such a fate again. We are commanded to provide comfort wherever there is suffering. For you know the heart of a stranger, since you were strangers in the land of Egypt. How do we ensure no one ever suffers such a fate again? We resolve to strengthen the world through our commitment to justice. We say, Leolam lo od, never again.
Never again shall we ignore the gathering shadows of hate.
Say with me, Leolam lo od.
Never again shall we stay silent at the preachings of malice.
Leolam lo od.
Never again shall we excuse those who hate.
Leolam lo od. And say this bracha with me. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam ozer Yisrael b'gevurah. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, ruler of the universe, who girds Israel with strength. Never again shall we stand and watch while people are mistreated.
Leolam lo od.
Never again shall we allow groups of people to be separated and made unequal.
Leolam lo od.
Never again shall we watch a community plant the seeds of hate and do nothing.
Leolam lo od. Join me in this blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, matir asurim. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, ruler of the universe, who frees the captive.
Never again. Oh, I'm sorry, Lynne, that's yours.
Never again shall we think we are helpless to stop the coming of evil.
Leolam lo od.
Never again shall we forget our own strength.
Leolam lo od.
Never again shall we allow hatred to go unanswered.
Leolam lo od. And join me in this most important bracha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu li'irdof tzedek. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, ruler of the universe, who makes us holy through your commandments and commands us to pursue justice.
Sag nicht kein Mal, als du gehst dem letzten Weg. Gott Himmeln bleien, ei verstellen bleie Tag. Willkommen wird noch unser ausgebänkte Schar. Es wird ab heut an unser Trott, wir senden da. You must not say that you now walk the final way, because the darkened heavens hide the blue of day. The time we've longed for will at last draw near, and our steps as drums will sound that we are here.
A question stands stark before us. How do we move forward when we have lost so much? Let us say together, we walk with a hole in our hearts and weight in our footsteps, but we walk forward. We are reduced, but we refuse to remain broken.
We remember. While the world counted their dead, we counted our living. Those who lived gave us strength to love again. In a displaced persons camp near Munich, Frania Bratt married Boris Blum 5 months after liberation. Their hand-printed wedding invitations listed both their hometowns and the death camps they had survived. Their daughter, Tova, was one of many babies born in the camp that year. We did not know what would come next. We only knew we could not go back to the life we once lived.
Our next story is the life of Shoshana Ruzhevsky in the Bergen-Belsen displaced peoples camp, shortly after liberation. Deborah, whenever you're ready.
I'm waiting for the nurse. She's in the storeroom back there. Oh, no, I'm not sick. Don't worry. I'm getting married. I work in this hospital, and I have since, well, not exactly since liberation. I mean, when we were liberated, my sister and I, we weighed about 60 pounds each. But we recovered, and when I got to the point where I weighed about 80 pounds, I started working in the hospital. It was a good thing to be doing. One night, I heard this patient screaming down the hall, and I went down to see if I could help. And there he was, blue eyes and this blonde forelock, this gorgeous guy. I mean, I wasn't really attracted to men yet, but Avraham, he woke something up. When we first met, we had no languages in common. I didn't speak Polish, and that's all he spoke. We could barely communicate, but we found ways, and we fell in love, and now we're getting married. Now, Avraham is Catholic, so we almost got married in a church. We walked into the church, and I saw the priest, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I walked right out again and convinced Avraham that he would need to become Jewish. And he agreed. He agreed to convert. And now we're getting married here in Bergen-Belsen Displaced Persons Camp, along with 6 other couples are going to get married the same day. We got tickets for wedding clothes, a dress for me, a suit for him. But I really wanted something to wear on my hair, a veil of some sort. So I came to the nurse and I said, have you got anything that could serve? A couple of scraps of bandage that I could sew together or something? You're in luck, she says, coming out of the storeroom. I have just the thing. A square of fabric, a meter across, a piece of gauze just big enough to make a veil for you for your wedding day.
Another breath. Oh. We brought our children and our hope out of hiding. Let us once again restore hope and joy openly to our lives. Let us return our notes, our hidden notes. And these notes, the symbol of our hope, we're going to return them to the table. If you hit a note, bring it back out now. Turn it over, and on the back, write a positive step that you can take to make that hope, or any hope, a reality. If you want, you can share your hopes or steps with each other in the chat. So we're gonna, again, contemplate. You can write, and then also write in the chat so we can share our hopes, restore them openly. I see, Sheila writes, courageously speak truth to power in service to those who cannot speak for themselves. Beautiful, Sheila. Wonderful. So we're going to move on, but keep writing these because we can all share through the chat. Deborah, you can continue. Oh, it's Greg.
Yep.
Sorry about that. Greg is next.
We remember, as we emerge from the rubble of our lives, we were united by an ancient hope, Hatikva. The expression of that hope is a song that has bolstered us in times of joy and in times of sorrow. It was the clarion call when we dreamed of a better life, a life of freedom and a land of our own, even while trapped in slavery. If you wish, please rise for the singing of the Hatikva.
Olod balev pnima nefesh Yehudi homia Efa'ate misrach kadima ayin litzion tzofia Od lo avta tikvateinu התקווה שנות 2000 להיות עם חופשי בארצנו ארץ ציון וירושלים.
As long as the Jewish spirit is yearning deep in the heart, with eyes turned toward the east, looking toward Zion, then our hope, the 2,000-year-old hope, will not be lost. To be a free people in our land, the land of Zion and Jerusalem. Please be seated.
With hope in our hearts, we step out of the darkness and into the light of renewed life. Let us say together, as we were all at Sinai, So we are all the children of survivors. As it is written in the Torah, and you shall tell your child on that day, it is because of what Adonai did for me when I went free from Egypt.
We say the Shechianu to give thanks that we have made it to this time and place. We said here because although much was lost, we survived, and that survival is worthy of celebration. We drink a cup of wine to celebrate our rebirth.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who has supported us, protected us, and brought us to this moment. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. L'chaim. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who creates the fruit of the vine.
Our joy in our survival is tampered by the tears of those we lost. We left no footprints, no fingerprints. All we have is memory. Let us say together, in this moment, we acknowledge that they lived. As long as we remember them, they are with us.
They are gone. They are gone. They cannot tell their stories any longer, but we can. We can hold open the window, this fragile window. We can give their stories wings. Let us give their stories a voice so they can fly into others' ears, into others' hearts. Only we can tell their stories now. Only we.
The survivors entreat us. I ask you not to forget the dead. I ask you to build a memorial in our names, a monument reaching up to the heavens, that the entire world might see. Not a monument of marble or stone, but one of good deeds. I believe with full and perfect faith that only such a monument can promise a better future. Only thus can we be sure that the evil that overturned the world and turned our lives into hell will never return. Donya Rosa, Ukraine.
Let us remember them as they lived. As we contemplate their pictures, we mourn the stories cut short, the hopes and dreams lost. We speak their names so they will not be forgotten. Some people in these photos are not named, reminding us that although some stories are lost, we still acknowledge the people who live them. For these, we simply say, unknown. If you have names of the lost that you would like us to read, please put them in the chat. If you wish, you may rise with us for the reading of the names.
Florika Lieberman, Bella Rodinarski, Boris Tsaytsin, Maria Tsaytsin, unknown. Hanna Yoskovitz, Junia Yoskovitz, Gabor Newman, Joseph Bruodo, Zvi Segal.
Hendrik Schwartz, Aaron Goldman Bordner, Maria Poblik, Marguerite Jacobi, Henrich Jacobi, Eli White, Helga Ham, Arthur Rubin, Trudia Rubin, William Wolf Zev Cohen.
From the chat, Wolf Goldstein and family, Britain Ida Edith, sorry if I'm getting the names wrong. Etta Stock, Basia Zelensikov, her husband and children whose names we will never know. The family of Morris Schatz, grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins of Judy Borjo and dear girlfriend Judy. Echa Leibovich Gross, Chaim Akiva Gross, Malka Gross, Avram Shira Gross, Esther Weiss, Leib Weiss, Mordechai Weiss, Malka Weiss, Hannah Weiss, family of David Berman, the Zaida and Bessie Brown, the Bubba. First filmed from Benton, Poland. Esia and David Shero, and the Jerkins from Krakow. Please keep writing, even if we don't read them out loud, they'll be read by everyone. Thank you. Cantor, Karen, please.
La 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 la. La 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 la. La da 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 da. Ya da 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 di da da. Ya da ya da 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 da. Ya da di da da. Ya da da. Ya da da da. Ya da 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 da. Ya da di da da.
If you wish, and if you're standing, you may remain standing for Kaddish. If you have a yahrzeit candle, light it now. The yahrzeit candles I have are special candles that come from a company called Our 6 Million, and they have the name of somebody who was lost on them. This one says, Yaakov Estreicher, from Kielce, Poland, the son of Simcha and Leah, husband of Malka Merchant, perished in the Auschwitz camp in Poland. So light your candle. We did not die alone. We say Kaddish not only for our own dead, but also for the many who were targeted alongside us. Romani people, gay people, those with disabilities, and voices of resistance, all murdered in the great silencing of diversity, speech, and opposition. We feel their loss as we gather and mourn our own immeasurable losses. Please join us in the reading of the Kaddish.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, ועלמא דברך גדולתי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך עולם ולעולמיה, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמד קודשה בריחו. לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל וכל בני אדם, ואמרו אמן. ואמרו 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 אמן. ואמרו 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 amen. May the one who brings peace around the world bring peace to all of us and to all who mourn. And let us say,
We remember. In the starving times, we dreamed of cooking in the kitchens of home. In the aftermath, when we contemplated all that had been lost, it was the recipes of those lost kitchens that comforted us.
We reached out and touched nothing. So we turned inward instead. Our memories kept us moving forward, our memories of home and of bread. We cannot return home. It's rubble. We cannot hold family. They're gone. But today we will have dumplings, and tomorrow we will live on.
Our final story is a story of solidarity from Yehudit Africhtig, a survivor of Ravensbrück. Lynn?
Judith worked at the Sims factory, and she also lived in Ravensbrück. And every night, Judith and her friends would come back to the barrack. They would have their slice of bread with some marge and some kind of brown concoction that was sometimes called coffee and sometimes it was called soup. And the women would sit together and they would talk and remember how back home they would eat beautiful, beautiful meals. And one day, Judith said to her friend, Edith, it's time we write these recipes. So they end up stealing a brown paper bag from the Sims factory, and they cut it up into small pieces. And they exchanged a piece of bread for a pencil and another piece of bread for some needle and thread. And they made up these little booklets and they wrote the recipes. One day, Judith fell sick and she was taken to the infirmary in Ravensbrück. And in the evening, Edith smuggled a letter. And the letter said, Dear Yuli, I'm so sorry we didn't spend this day together in our great hall and we didn't dine together. So that you could enjoy the menu we had, even if you were just imagining it, I will tell it to you now. And this is what we had. In the morning, we had curd salad breakfast, which had butter and eggs and cheese and jam. And at 10 in the morning, we had yogurt and langosh and radishes. For lunch, we had potato soup with cream and bay leaves, and asparagus and cream with breadcrumbs, a fried egg, and an ox's tail and tomato sauce with macaroni. And then we had fried apples in vanilla sauce. For tea, we had hot cocoa with cream and almond challah and a honey cake. For dinner, we had brain marrow, fried potatoes with onions, salad with green onions, and a small coffee biscuit with black coffee and fruit. With Carly, we ate everything, and we were all so full. We ate it all, and all that was left was this one piece of bread, which I'm sending to you with this letter.
From the abundance of our brightest lives to the sharing of scraps in the darkest times, communities rise with the sharing of bread. Our ancestors understood this. Let all who are hungry come and eat. Let all who are needy come and celebrate with us. Let us take up that call to share our friendship with all who are in need. As we break bread together, oh, let us say this together, please. As we break bread together, we give thanks for our survival, acknowledging that we are no more deserving than those who did not survive. We celebrate the Jewish community that continues to thrive and the community we have created between us here today. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who brings forth bread from the earth.
We awaken to a world where human beings have done unfathomable evil to each other, to us. What do we do now? We weep and ask, how do we go on living after such a loss?
We are commanded to choose life. We remember that our ancestors held on to love and life and hope, even in the hardest times. We know that the thread of Jewish life is strong. As survivors say, grandchildren are the best bench.
Overwhelmed by the enormity of the story, we whisper, I do not want to hear anymore.
We draw inward to comfort one another, and yet we know ignoring evil only allows it to grow. Despite our unease, we choose not to be blind. We choose awareness because we recognize that evil does not need our help, just our indifference.
We cry out in anger, how could this happen? Where was the world?
We remember not only the evil of those who hurt us, but also the goodness of those few who helped us. We resolve to turn our anger into positive drive to repair the world.
Awakened, we inquire, how does hatred grow? Can we stop it?
Hatred grows when we ignore it, when we allow hateful behavior to go unchallenged. We will not let evil hide in the shadows. We resolve to shine a spotlight on hate and make it clear that such behavior is not acceptable. We will be vocal torchbearers of love.
Once again, we move off the page and into our own hearts and our own minds. And we invite you again to close your eyes or go into a quiet place inside as you consider this question. How could you become a vocal torch bearer of love? Consider this for a moment. And then, if you wish, write your answers in the chat and we will take a time again to contemplate and to type. So Linda writes, by not only standing strong in her own faith, but allowing others the same dignity. And Etcha says, finding the courage to speak what I see. Tanya writes, each person I encounter is created in the image of God. And if I remember that, everything's moving quickly. So give me a second to open my full screen so I can see. There. Each person I encounter, Tanya writes, is created in the image of God. And if I remember that, my words and actions will always be loving. Deborah says, by telling not only the stories of death, but also the stories of strength and helping. Lynn writes, learning how to be a Holocaust storyteller and telling their stories in your voice, keeping the memory alive that brings light to the world. And Karen says, through song. We have been very fortunate tonight to hear her voice. Liz shares, amplify the stories and voices of those who are marginalized. And I'll read the last two that I still see here by Violet and Susan. Violet says, do not stand by when you see fear being spread. Stand strong for those who are weak. And Susan writes, it is from a place of love of God's creation, our planet, that I am doing the training to be a leader, teacher for Al Gore's Climate Reality Project. So thank you everyone for bringing all these pieces to our night and for being torchbearers of love, vocal torchbearers of love.
Please read responsibly with us. I pray for courage and for strength. When I remember the evils in the past, the innocent people tortured and murdered, I am almost afraid to make myself remember, but I am even more afraid to forget.
I ask for wisdom that I might mourn and not be consumed by hatred, that I might remember and yet not lose hope.
I must face evil, and so doing, reaffirm my faith in future good. I cannot erase yesterday's pain, but I can vow that they will not have suffered in vain.
And so I pray, for those who are given death, I choose life, for me and for generations yet to come.
For those who found courage to stand against evil, often at the cost of their lives, I vow to carry on their struggle.
I must teach myself and others to learn from hatred that people must love, to learn from evil, to live for good.
Eli, Eli, שלא ייגמר לעולם. החול והים, רשרוש של המים, ורק השמיים, תפילת האדם, החול והים, רשרוש של המים. ברק השמיים, תפילת האדם. Oh Lord, my God, I pray that these never end. Sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens, the prayers of the heart, the sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens, the prayers of the heart.
We recognize that despite our best efforts, there is still evil in the world. People are still persecuted for who they are. Anger and hatred continue to seep into our communities.
Nonetheless, we proclaim that there is hope. we can make a difference. We can help.
Without justice, there can be no peace. He who passively accepts evil is as much involved in it as he who helps to perpetrate it. Martin Luther King Jr.
To stem the flow of hatred, we must work for justice. For as Isaiah tells us, the work of justice shall be peace.
We cannot change our past, but we can build our future.
Do not be daunted by the enormity of the world's grief. Do justly now. Love chesed now. Walk humbly now. You are not obligated to complete the work, but neither are you free to abandon it. Rami Shapiro.
We must remember that peace and justice are not gifts from God. They are our gifts to each other. Elie Wiesel, Hungary. And so we say together, we pledge ourselves to work for peace and justice throughout the world. Tzedek, tzedek, nirdof. Justice, justice, we shall pursue.
Tzedek, tzedek nirdof. Tzedek, tzedek, tzedek nirdof. Tzedek, tzedek nirdof. Tzedek, tzedek, tzedek nirdof. Still stands. And you see on your screen, or you might see on your screen, the Klimt Tree of Life. So this poem speaks directly to that. At the base of the tree of life, potatoes grow, dug up each spring, proclaiming, let all who are hungry come and eat. A forceful gale blasts delicate gold coils like branches that turn, twist, and fall. But new spirals spring, face to the sun, as the tree sucks the sweet wine up from ancient wells. Day will come when oranges bittersweet with sprigs of rosemary will dance, when branches will hold names for peace, salam, samaya, shalom, when a reprise of a sacred song dangles, spinning out an entire whole, when fruits and leaves and turns of phrase fall silent, one word will sing, hallelujah. Day will come the day. Love and peace will show the way. Hand in hand, they'll bring the light. Sing the song with all your might. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
Thank you, Karen. And thank you all for joining us. Thank you to our readers and our storytellers, Leora Lazarus, Greg Eftimie, Tanya Wisoker, Lynne Feldman, and Jennifer Zunikoff. Thanks to Cantor Karen Weber for providing the music for tonight. And thank you all for participating. Please join us on Thursday the 20th or Sunday the 23rd for 2 special nights of history and storytelling, sharing their stories, Jewish uprisings and resistance. And we'll put the registration links for that in the chat. Our God and God of our ancestors, God of our fathers and mothers, of our living and our dead, hold this people in your hand. Keep us safe and help us find that sacred well of justice that dwells within each of us. Help us create a just world for all people in all places. Thank you and good night.